afternoon, welcome to 2020, right on 1 o'clock. I was just saying to Jacinta, we are starting the year off on a bang. We're actually 100% on time today with our HubLives. Welcome to the Smart Hub and welcome to 2020, even though we're a bit into 2020, as you know. And welcome, Mr. Matthew Doyle. How are you?
Oh, living the dream, as always.
Living the dream, I love it. Okay, so we'll get into today's HubLive really quickly because we have a super interesting and relevant topic to cover. But as you know, we do these HubLives to help our business owners adopt technology and modern best business practice and just best business practice in general so that we can be more profitable, save time, save money and have a better experience while being in business. And we'll be doing these HubLives every single Thursday for the rest of the year. So we're super excited to kick off today and speak about a topic that you as the audience have told us is really important to you. So at the end of last year, we did a lot of work to engage with our community and ask, what is the number one challenge that you are facing in your business today? And we got an overwhelming response back. And basically the number one challenge that people seem to be facing, and I can somewhat relate, and I'm sure you can too, is the whole time management thing. How do we manage our time and how do we manage to put everything that we want in our lives and put it into our lives and fit it all in and do it all to a good level of a good standard and to still enjoy the journey. So we have the expert, today's expert on the topic of time management. I don't know, you're pulling a face.
Well,
the expert should not pull a face.
Maybe they can tell us in the comments afterwards whether they think it's an expert or not.
Okay,
Let's see how it goes.
Tell us whether you think Matt's an expert. I think he's pretty good. The expert in balancing life and time, and not just from a theoretical perspective, but you actually live this stuff every day because you have a very full life yourself, which I'm sure you'll tell us about too. So, hello Matthew Doyle from Tutt Holland. How are you?
As I said, I'm living the dream. I'm really good. I'm always excited to be here. This is good fun.
Excellent. You've been a member with us
since we'd be just over 3 years perhaps now, I think, because it would have been early 2017, so probably about 3 years now.
You were one of our first members.
Part of the furniture.
Yeah, part of the furniture. Yes. So how's 2020 travelling for you?
So far so good. It's started the way we want. It's heading in the right direction. Some really exciting things happening. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for what 2020's got ahead.
Awesome. Now, before we get into time management, can you give us a short snippet of your story and your life and why you started business, what kind of business you're in? Just a short snippet for people who haven't seen our previous HubLives and might not be familiar with you.
Sure. So I refer to myself as the world changers coach. So my mission in business now is to empower people to change the world by becoming better leaders and better in business. But I got started in business at the age of 15. I always probably had a bit of a business interest, and I fell into it really. I come across the opportunity to buy a horse that was a business investment. I bought it. I had to negotiate debt for the first time when I bought that horse, and so it became an investment from a breeding perspective and a showing perspective. I went into working with racehorses, and that morphed then into a second business before I'd even left school, which was involved buying racehorses off the track so I could re-educate them and sell them to make sure they didn't end up as pet food or something of the like. And so yeah, that's my sort of interest for business really got underway when I got started doing it at that age. And
wow, 15, that's pretty young, that's good.
Yeah, I was just...
You have it in your blood.
I do. I was just talking to another young member of our Smart Hub earlier about, we were sharing notes on what it's like to be in business at a really young age, and I jokingly said one of the things you learn a lot when you start at 15, and one of the things you learn is just how to get steamrolled by people who, will take you for a ride as a 15-year-old kid, and we both kind of went, yep, absolutely. But I'm all the better for having started so early and learning so early. And since then I've been involved in different businesses and leadership in the not-for-profit and charity sector, which is where my passion really lies today. And here I am now helping using what I know to help other people grow successful purpose-driven businesses, the businesses that are out to change the world, and working on another slightly super secret startup project at the same time.
Oh, okay. We'll get to the super secret startup project in a moment. Tell us, are you busy?
I'm always busy.
Why are you so busy, sir?
I'm busy because I run a business that involves 2 separate companies with a third startup. I'm studying a university degree, as my profile says that we were just joking about off air, I am the husband of one wife and the father of 3 children, and I highly value being present with my family, and I don't believe that business is an excuse for me to, put them below my business.
Yeah.
I have at times sacrificed things to do with the business to ensure that being husband and father mattered more,
Right.
and I lived that out. My oldest son has type 1 diabetes, which creates challenges that you can't plan. He's now just begun school, and so there's the involvement of school and etc. John Cook, I know where you sit, just for the record. I'm watching Jacinta scribe your question up here. I know where to find you.
Hello, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us.
As a bit of an
I'm not sure.
As a bit of an in-joke, John, I'm going to ask whether that's a state or a federal issue. John and I will know what that's about. And so, yeah, that creates an awful lot of demands on my time and on my calendar, and it demands an ability to manage it well.
Yeah.
And I think one of the important things before we go into specific details is that when it comes to, no matter how busy you are, when it comes to time management, is to give yourself permission to not get it right all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
No matter how well you manage it, sometimes it will get away from you. And I've had to learn that through having things like type 1 diabetes that are out of my control.
Yes, because you can't control everything.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's talk about time management. How would you define time management?
I guess the ability for you to run your calendar and not have your calendar run you is probably the best example that I can give. If you're managing your time well, you are in charge of what's happening with your time, and you're proactive, you're not reactive. You're not stressed because you're always responding to something or trying to meet deadlines or trying to get. You have that feeling, even if you're not. You might not be in control of things, but you at least have the feeling that you are.
Yeah.
That's probably the best definition I can give.
That's really cool. Well, I know when I wrote The Naked Truth About You in 2011, I had a big section on time management, and the first thing that I said was, time management's a bit of a myth, because no matter how much you try, no one can actually manage time.
That's right.
Like 60 seconds to a minute, 60 minutes to an hour, 24 hours to a day, 365 to a year. That's what we've got. I don't know if you have any special powers. I don't know if you can beam time, but I certainly do not.
Unfortunately not, but if we find out how, there's another startup in that, I'm sure.
So really, time management is self-management. It's the ability to manage your own self in the use of time, which is fixed.
Absolutely.
Time is a fixed resource, and it's the ability for you to be able to make decisions about your schedule, really, about what to do when, and how to do it, how to get it done, where to be, how to show up, etc. That really is the bottom line of time management. So there's a bit of a problem, I think, even in calling it time management, because it gives the impression that you can manage time, which I don't think is true. Absolutely.
I agree completely. In fact, I think your definition is so good I might have to steal it. But it is.
You're welcome.
It definitely is a myth, this idea. But there's truth to a lot of cliches, and one of those that goes around is if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Correct.
And I think that's because that person has that level of self-management that they can make their time work. They can make the most out of every minute, of every hour, of every day, and still be at home having a cup of tea when they like it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody who hasn't developed that self-management will be doing a tenth of as much and yet feel like they're the busiest person in the world.
Yeah, and I think there are really two components to this, right? There is what you're actually getting done, and whether what you're working on is even the right thing to work on, and if it is, getting everything done that you need to get done to achieve what you want to achieve. But then there's the other side, which is more of the inside, the inner world stuff, which is how are you feeling, how are you experiencing your life while you're doing all the work that you need to do, or playing all the roles that you need to play. So one thing that I've stepped back into this year fully is being a hands-on mum. My husband and I had a bit of he would be more hands-on. He was more hands-on with our kids last year, and now I'm more hands-on with our kids this year. And I can tell you that extra level of, having to be very hands-on with the kids, wow, there's a lot of time that gets sucked into doing that. And it's probably my favorite thing to do. I absolutely love being a mum. But in terms of balancing everything, it really takes some doing.
Yeah, and I mean, if you don't have children and you really think you've got it nailed, have children.
No.
And you will
upset manage your schedule.
You will rethink
sure.
everything you know about how you manage your time. I mean, I have, in our family, my wife Veronica is the primary caregiver with our kids the majority of the time. From time to time, you know, that changes and she'll have things to do and I obviously try and spend as much time as I can. And yeah, I mean, every time I do, I have a new appreciation for her normal day.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I always say, you know, I don't help my wife with looking after our children. We do it together, but there's no doubt that the majority of that time is her. And so, yeah, I have a new appreciation for how she does it every time it's my turn to step up.
It's a tricky thing. Hey Monique, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you on our first HubLive for 2020, and we're talking time management with Matthew Doyle, as you would know, who is the coach for the World Changers.
The World Changers coach. That's
World Changers coach, let me get it right. The World Changers coach. Okay, let's get into the how to manage yourself in the use of time. How do we do that?
Well, the key is to have a system for how you manage it. Let's talk about managing yourself, not your time, because I think we both agree that that's what you're really doing. You're managing yourself and your use of time, not time itself. You need to develop a system, like most things. And it's me talking, so I'll talk to you about my system, but it might not be the right one for you. And what works for you, Elise, will be different to me. What works for Jacinta, who might not like me referencing her behind the camera there, will probably be different again.
Yes.
So for me, the system that I have developed, I've given a name, and I call it focused flexibility. And
I like that.
Focused flexibility.
Yeah.
And the way I've come up with it, and I've had to learn, again, when you're trying to juggle university, business, fatherhood, the fact that you may have to drop everything at a moment's notice. I mean, you can't see it on the camera, but I have a phone sitting here where an alarm could go off at any time if there's an issue with my son's blood sugar levels. The fact that at any given moment you could have to drop everything for that gives you a new perspective on how you manage your time. And so the way my system that I call focused flexibility works is I make sure I have prioritised what matters on a to-do list or however you manage your things at life, and I chunk specific blocks of time across my calendar, and I chunk everything. I chunk time that I will be spending with my family, and I block that out of my calendar, because then it doesn't accidentally get encroached into work issues. So, you know, my family time is there, my church time is there, my business time is there. It's all in my calendar, but it's then in blocks that effectively I can move around as things chop and change. So I'm incredibly structured, and that's where the focused part comes in. I focus how I intend to use my time, but then it needs to be flexible enough that I can respond to something unplanned at a moment's notice and not have the world fall apart if I do.
Nice. Hello, Derry. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll call you tomorrow, by the way. Sorry, I didn't call you today. So I'm going to just reference what you said and break that down into more specific steps.
Yeah.
Okay. So number one thing that you mentioned was know what your priorities are.
Yes.
Okay. Because if you don't know what your priorities are, you can get dragged into distraction, into scrolling mindlessly through Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Netflix, and you can feel very busy, not get much done, and not know what you should be focusing your that focus flexibility, what you should be focusing on.
Absolutely.
So how do you and when do you set and review your own priorities?
Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, generally speaking.
Okay. So tell us, start from the beginning. If someone has an idea of their priorities, but they've actually never been through the actual structured approach of looking at what they are or documenting them, what would you do? I
would start with this fantastic new innovation that a lot of people have never used. It's called pad and a pencil, or a pad and a pen.
Yes.
And
really technologically advanced.
Absolutely, because we think we've got to be we've got to use this app or that app. No, sit down with a pad and a pen at a desk. Those things all still exist.
Yeah.
And literally just sit down, and it doesn't matter how long the page goes, write down everything. Everything that's on your to-do list, everything you can think of that you need to do, just everything, small, big.
So empty your mind onto
absolutely.
Paper.
Everything you're thinking of, trying to do, whatever, and you'll be amazed at what you come up with. When you actually sit down and quantify everything you've been trying to juggle, you'll be amazed. And then my next step when I've done that, and I revisit this regularly. I don't sit down, set it once and forget it, and then think that I haven't let other things creep back in. Now, the prioritisation method I follow is one that I learned through studying Brian Tracy's material, which is an ABCDE method. There are others using 1, 2, 3, 4, colours, whatever. So, but I prioritise using the ABCDE method, which is effectively, must do, should do, nice to do, delegate and eliminate. And when you go through and you actually go through the list and you assign them, you'll probably be astounded at how many D's and E's are actually on your thing that you actually considered were pressing, and that you might have been spinning the plate going, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. But when you go through that list, you go, actually, somebody else can do this. Or this doesn't matter at all. And then now I can sit down and I can block out the time for, and I'm going to work through anything that come up with an A, I'm going to do it first.
So A is must do.
A is must do. If I don't do the A's, the walls are probably going to fall down.
Okay,
That
so
sort of
what
stuff.
is a must do for you? Give us an example.
Well, a must do for me in a business circumstance is I've got to do what it takes to make sure my marketing is working, that I'm turning up on calls with my clients. Those they're things I can't, I don't know if I'll do that today or not. If I want to run a business, I have to market, I have to sell, and I have to service.
Yeah.
And so they're priorities from a business standpoint. For me, making sure that I'm informed about what's happening at my son's school is an important thing. So yesterday we had a parent information night. That was a priority A. There was no, that had to be done. Obviously, when he started school, there were lunchtime visits to school to help them adjust to insulin dosing and those kind of things. That was an A.
Yeah.
And so those things get chunked into the calendar. And when I put things in I do colour code as well. So we prioritise and we colour code. So I can look at my calendar and I can see what's coming up that's work, what's coming up that's family, what's coming up that's university, and I can see these things at a glance. That helps me just, when you're reviewing, to actually look again at my calendar and analyse, have I got one, sort of exorbitant amount of a particular colour, and go, oh, this is taking over. Yeah.
Okay, so let's maybe go back even one step further. So would you say that a really great place to start is to maybe look at all the different aspects of your life, your health, your career, your family, your relationships, and so forth?
Yes.
And really, there really are only three major ones: your career, money kind of side of things.
Yes.
Your health, that's pretty important. And then your relationships.
That's right.
So you prioritise those and then set specific goals around what it is that you want for yourself over the next year in those different areas.
My view at the beginning of a year, which is pretty pertinent right now, is to set a theme for the year.
Oh yeah,
and then you can set goals around it. So last year my theme was fitness, and then off that I went physical, mental, spiritual and financial fitness. And then I was able to break down goals and prioritise them in each of those 4 areas. This year it's production, making stuff happen. And so again, that's business, family. Again, I've sort of probably gone a little bit this year towards breaking that into 4 areas, body being balanced business. And that comes from, again, some study of something I've done. That's setting that theme for the year and building goals off that theme. And that's better than, I found that much better than just trying to sit down and set resolutions, because now your goals are moving in that core direction of who I want to be.
Okay, awesome. So step 1, set some kind of direction. Set a theme. A theme for the year. Right, and do you need inspiration for the theme? Do you get inspired? How do you settle on a theme?
Look, the last couple of years I've kind of sat back and thought, well, where do I want to go? And I have to admit, it's kind of just come to me. So I've been pretty blessed in that way. So do I have to seek some kind of inspiration? No, but again, I'm a husband, a father, so the direction that I'm setting, I want to make sure that my wife and I are heading in the same direction. And so there's conversations between us about what matters and what direction do we want to head in. That communication with other people around you. If you're by yourself, then by all means it might just be your personal direction. But particularly if you've got a family, a person is not an island. You need to involve your thinking around them and hearing from them about what matters to them as much as your personal aspiration, and making those work together.
Awesome. Okay, so number 1, ask yourself, what is the theme that you want for the year? And then look at the different kind of things that are going on in your life, your health, your family, your career, your finances. Look at those and then set some kind of goals that relate to the theme. Yeah. Right. And then step 3 would be brain dump.
It would.
Write everything down.
So just sticking with step 2 for just a second. One thing that, and I'm going to segue that if you come to our lunch and learn later on this month, this is one of the things that we will talk about is when you actually sit down and you try and do this theme. Something I do with clients, that I do with myself, is actually asking yourself the question that said, if I was walking down the street 12 months from now and I ran into myself, what would have to have happened in the last 12 months for me to be proud of the person I meet? Or happy with or pleased with? And okay, whatever the answer is for that, that might be the inspiration for where you find your theme. That's the direction you're going to head.
Powerful question. Oh, that is a powerful question. So, if you were walking down the street 12 months from today and you ran into yourself, what would have had to happen for you to feel proud of your own self, proud of who you are, or happy with how the last year had gone? I think if you ask yourself that question and you just take a notepad or a journal and a pen and you just write down what comes to mind, you are going to find a theme.
Yep.
100%.
And then you've got something to benchmark every prioritisation, or something to question, is this moving me in that direction?
Yes. Is this going to make me achieve this thing? Perfect. And then, as you said, you could involve and should involve the people around you if it involves them, if you have a family and so forth. Okay, so then we're on to step 3, which is brain dump.
Yes.
Now, I think that's incredibly powerful. And again, it's so easy to do, and people usually think that it would take hours and hours and hours to write down everything in your mind. It actually doesn't. In my experience, it takes between 10 and 15 people, and I've sat with numerous people, hundreds of people, to get their thoughts on paper, and usually within 10 and 15 minutes, they've gone, no, that's it. I'm done.
If you asked me a time, I would have said you the exact same time frame, 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yep. So give yourself the gift of 10 to 15 minutes and write down everything that's on your mind, because while it's in your head, that will feel overwhelming. Sorry. So what do you do once you have it all on paper? What's step 4? So
you've got it all on paper and you've been through whatever your prioritisation method is then, and again, you're going to rank your A, B, C, D, E into how much impact they're going to have on that push towards you becoming that person that you want to meet next year, or at the end of this year. And so then it's about chunking and organising, when I'm going to do this and when I'm going to do that.
Now step 5, chunking and organising.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just define what that means. So when I see the term, or hear the term chunking and organising, kind of what I see is the thing that is running in a fixed manner in the background of our lives is time. And the way in which we can visualize time is through a schedule. So literally, the document or just Outlook schedule or a Google calendar, any kind of calendar that documents or 24 hours a day over 7 days a week over a month. Okay, so that is the visual representation of the time that's fixed for you. Yeah. Because your life's really nothing but time.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so then how do you chunk? When you say the word chunk, what does that look like? How do you take something from your brain dumped priority list and you put that in your schedule? How do you chunk that together?
So you're going to start with sort of organising that list into things that work together, whether they're same projects, same areas. It might be the same, parts of your life, body, being, balance, business, those kind of things. So, I'm going to have different things here, there, and wherever that are going to relate to my own personal development, that relate to university. So you're going to pull those together. And then sit down and say, this is, and design, before you start to try and put in actual things into that schedule, sit down and design, this is what my ideal week looks like. So in an ideal week, I will be doing this, 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 and this at this time. This is when I'll be doing marketing and sales development. So my ideal week has 5 days, at the beginning and end of every day, there's a school run in there. That's a reality. So it's in my ideal week. This is when I'm doing this. You have, this is when I'll be marketing and selling, which for me is early in most days. This is when I'm going to do university, which for me is probably when my brain's at its dullest in the middle of the night. But that's when you chunk those things in. And then make sure that as you do that, there are gaps. And most importantly, that in that
contingency gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. This is where focused flexibility comes in. You have to have gaps to allow for overrun or for unexpected things. I have blocks in my calendar where this is where I will meet with potential clients. This is where I will do coaching time with clients. That works for my business structure. It might not work for other people. And then in my scheduling tool that I use in my business, I have it set up so that people can only book appointments with it. So I don't have accidents where somebody books an appointment with me when I'm supposed to be on a school run. And so I'm not scrambling to go, oh, I'm double booked. I cannot remember the last time I was double booked.
Oh, nice.
And I don't say it'll never happen again, but I can't remember the last time. So, and that's, I have that ideal week, and then my scheduling tool reflects that ideal week. I've spent things go wrong. I've spent most of my day today dealing with something that's got absolutely nothing to do with anything that moves me in the direction I want to go. These things happen. But it's your ability to then shuffle the decks. And again, the one other thing I like when it comes to this chunking and sequencing, and as I said, I operate daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. So you've got a theme of where you want to head. You've got specific goals. Okay, these are my annual goals. What has to happen quarter 1, 2, 3, 4 to achieve those goals? Okay, so we're now working in the first quarter of the year. We know what has to happen in the first quarter of this year to hit my revenue goal for this year, or financial year, so it's actually the third quarter, but you take my point. What has to happen in this quarter to hit that goal? Great. Now what has to happen every month to hit that quarterly goal? What has to happen every week? And then it's very easy for me to go, what has to happen today to make sure I hit what has to happen this week, to make sure I hit what has to happen this month, this quarter, etc. And a really, really big goal is not so really, really big and scary when you see it broken down into little bits. It's that old, how do you move a mountain? One stone at a time.
Yeah.
And we schedule this into the calendar then, those daily, weekly, and monthly. And when it comes to the DMWQs, I write them down every day. You've got new daily goals every day, but I might not like what my daily goals are for today. So the fact that I've written down the quarterly goal means I know why I'm doing the daily goal I don't like, and I do like the outcome of that quarterly goal. And I love what Brendan Burchard said to us. It's kind of a segue, but it's not when we're talking about scheduling and calendaring. And that he says that a goal that's not in your calendar is just a wish.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you set a goal and you don't actually schedule the steps that you have to take to make it happen, it won't happen.
Correct.
And another tool of his which helps to visualize, if you want to try and visualize the entire year, is this concept of what's called a battle board. And so, and it's not an app where you've got this stuff on it, but actually taking over a wall in your office in a space with 12 blocks every month. And on each month, what's happening that month to ensure that I come out of this 12 months as that person I want to meet at the end of the 12 months. And I think that's a great strategy because you can always visualize it. You can always see it. And I'm an incredibly visual person. So when I can see things, it really helps. But again, these are great tools that I've found. The key at the end is have a system. What I do might not work for you if you live your life in organised chaos, if that's how you operate the best, but have a system.
Yeah, I think there's great wisdom in having a flexible and structured approach simultaneously. So if you are the kind of person who lives in organised chaos, to take your term, obviously you need to work on the structure. If you're too structured, that's not good either. Then you have to work on a little bit of flexibility. It's actually where structure and flexibility meet. That's the sweet spot. That's why I like your focus flexible model. I think it's a really, really great one. Okay, so you also mentioned before when you chunk the stuff into your schedule, you color code it so that then you can look at how you're using your time, and you can go, oh, I've got a terrible amount of red in here, and red is downtime. Obviously, I'm spending too much time relaxing, just as a very poor example.
Yeah,
And it just gives you a instant visual feedback as to how you are balancing your life.
Yes, absolutely.
So you want nice balance in your schedule in terms of color.
Yeah.
Color coding. That's excellent. That's really, really excellent. And then do you have a review system at the end of every day? If you've broken it down and you've done a good job in the day, when do you look at your day and think, yep, that was a good day, or no, I really let myself down here all day?
Yeah, so I like to sit back at the end of the day and look at what I hope to achieve. Obviously, there are some black and white numbers at the end of the day that if I look at a dashboard tool that I use and it's got some red numbers up there for the day, the week, the month, I know, okay, I'm not progressing far enough along. That's from a purely revenue perspective.
Yeah.
I have things that come about, who do I want to be spiritually? Did I sit down and take my personal devotion and reflection time this morning? Yes or no? And if not, well, then I missed that opportunity to move. But again, you don't beat yourself up when you miss it once. When you sit down at the end of the day and you put a cross against something you wanted to do, analyse why that happened. Was there a reason? And then what am I going to do to prevent that next time? But don't beat yourself up over it, which is, is a real risk. So every day there should be some kind of review of just how did I perform today, or how did I perform against my own benchmarks today, the benchmarks I've set for myself, how am I tracking in relation to these goals, and then planning ahead for tomorrow, so that by the time you approach, you're ready, you're up the next day, you're already launching into what's to come for that day. You're not trying to figure out whether you're Arthur or Martha, because you can actually lose an awful amount of time at the beginning of a day trying to figure out what you need to do that day.
Yeah, It's really interesting, and I think the beginning of the day is the most powerful time of the day, and how you start the day sets the tone for the rest of the day.
Absolutely.
So I do really like that idea. I also like the idea of setting your to-do list the day before, so that your subconscious mind has time to work up some of the solutions to the problems you might be facing, or come up with creative ideas, or easier ways to do things. I'm a huge fan, personally, of habits. I think habits is what makes life easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you subscribe to the whole habit theory?
Absolutely. There's when we sit down, whether it's myself or coaching with someone else, and obviously if I'm coaching other people, I'm trying to implement the same solutions in my own life. We're operating on goals, realities, the options, the way forward, and then we have tactics that we need to employ and habits that we need to build. It's absolutely big on the development of habits and the sticking to those habits, and absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that is a kind of quite nice segue into this Lunch and Learn event that you'll be speaking at for us. So on Tuesday the 25th of February, which is only a couple of weeks away, we have our very first Lunch and Learn for the year. As you know, at the Smart Hub, we have Lunch and Learns every month between February and November usually. And so Matthew is going to kick that off for us, and it's the theme is In the Zone, how to achieve maximum productivity and happiness. Now, I'm sure that sounds very, very appealing. I think that's very appealing for most people. So the overview, I'm just going to read some of what's here, and if you can give us just a little bit of a snippet for each one. So the overview, really you're going to cover 4 things in the hour. The first one is the master model to make the next decade your best decade. Now, I love for us to be back in the 20s. That's a bit of wishful thinking.
I'm only 33, come on. I'm not that far out of the 20s.
Not for you, you're right. For me, so, well, let's not even go there. Anyway, so we have a whole new decade. 2020 is upon us, and we're at the start of a whole new exciting decade, a decade that holds a lot of promise. So how are we going to make the next decade our best decade? Because regardless of how old you are, really the next decade is what you have now. It's your immediate future. It's your short, medium-term future. So tell us a little bit about the master model that you'll be revealing.
So the master model will work through 4 steps that I'm kind of not going to give away right now.
Yeah, don't tell us the 4 steps.
Yeah, so it is a visual model. 4 steps that some of which we've vaguely covered into and segued into today for having the most not only productive but happy life. It's one thing to be focused on just being productive and making stuff happen, but it's pointless if you're not living the life that you feel like you should be living as well, and feel happy and comfortable and living in your purpose and that kind of thing.
So I don't know this for sure, but my sense is that you're going to help us link into ourselves and what we want to do, and then take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, then the keys to achieving peak performance. How many keys are there?
I believe, I've got to go back to my notes, but I believe there are 5 that we will be covering.
So 4 steps for the master model, and then 5 keys to achieving peak performance. That's excellent. And then why most people get goal setting wrong, and how we should do that better. Absolutely,
and we've kind of covered a little bit of that already. So
really, we're going to link into how you can make the whole decade great. Then we're going to look at how you can be a peak performer. Then we're going to ensure that you have your goals set properly for the next year. And then how to achieve, this is my favorite. I absolutely cannot wait for this one. How to achieve twice as much in half the time.
Yeah, so that's when we're going to get really, really super practical. And if you turn up, not if you watch it on Facebook Live, if you turn up, there might be something I can give away linked to that last point.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so how do you register for our Lunch and Learn? It's on the 25th of February. There's an Eventbrite link. You just go to the comments, click on it, and register, and show up to the Smart Hub at 12 noon. What you'll find here is lunch, ready for you to grab a lunch and take your seat, and then we'll get started just after 12. There is a $10 fee if you're a non-member, and that just helps us cover the catering, really. And members, all of our events and programming is absolutely free for members. So if you're interested in becoming a member, you can actually become a monthly member for $50 a month, and then you get the event for free. So if you're interested in becoming a member and coming along to this event, or if you just want to come along to the event, let us know. You can comment, you can PM us, or you can, if you just want to register for the event, obviously just click on the link. And we will be done by 1. We are very, very good at sticking to time because we do know that people come along in their lunch breaks. So 12 noon, we all come to the Smarter. By 1, we're saying goodbye to each other and we continue on with our day. So I reckon an hour of your life and $10 if you're a non-member is a tiny investment to make, to learn how to make the next decade your best decade. And I think that that is a phenomenal thing to do at the beginning of the year. So join us on the 25th of February to hear Matthew and to also get that big giveaway. And please register on the link below. Now, thank you so very much, sir. Do you have a last word of wisdom?
Come to the Lunch and Learn on the 25th of February. That is the most wise thing I can say today.
Okay, that sounds really good. We look forward to seeing you on the 25th, but I'll also be back next week in our beautiful studio at 1 o'clock on Thursday for our next HubLive. I look forward to seeing you then.